In this video, we are going to talk about dimensional analysis. It's a very important concept that we're going to use a lot throughout the semester. Dimensional analysis is a method that uses a conversion factor to convert between one quantity to another. A conversion factor is basically some number, generally it's a fraction, that states the relationship between two different units. And we'll give you some examples of this in just a minute. Essentially, you'll take some given quantity, multiply it times a conversion factor in order to get some other quantity. So an example of a conversion factor might be this. 1 meter is equal to 1.0936 yards. This relationship can be used to convert a given quantity from meters to yards or from yards to meters. If we wanted to express this relationship as a conversion factor, we could express it one of two ways. So since this is a relationship or an equivalency, these two are essentially equal to each other, we can write it as a fraction. 1 meter over 1.0936 yards, or equally, you could express it as 1.0936 yards over 1 meter. If you express it the first way, this way, that's generally used if you need to convert yards into meters, where what you're trying to convert into goes on top and what you're converting from goes on the bottom. If you wanted to convert meters into yards, you would write it like this, where the 1 meter would go on the bottom and the 1.0936 yards would go on top. One other thing, generally when you have a relationship or a conversion factor such as this, where you have for example, 1 meter equal to 1.0936 yards, the 1 is considered exact, whereas the other quantity has some number of sig figs. In this case, this would have 5. Okay. There's a number of different conversion factors. These are just a few of them. You have a table in your text. Now, you don't have to memorize these, but here's several of them. You can see 1 kilometer equals 0.62137 miles. That's an equivalency. If we wrote that as a conversion factor, we could write it as a fraction. Again, the 1 here is exact, whereas this number would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sig figs. Now this one, here's one, 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters exactly. Since we're told this is exact, this is a defined value. Both the 1 inch and the 2.54 centimeters are exact numbers, so we don't have to worry about sig figs there. So these are just a table just to give you some idea of all the different conversion factors that there are. Let's take a look at a couple of problems to give you some practice. Let's say that we have 7.809 yards, and we are asked to convert that into meters. The equivalency here is 1 meter is equal to 1.0936 yards. So take a minute, pause the video, and solve this problem. Okay, so in this problem, again, we're given yards. So what we would want to do is convert it into meters by taking our equivalency and making it into a conversion factor. We would put the yards on the bottom and the 1 meter on top. So essentially we would take 7.809 yards times 1 meter divided by 1.0936 yards. We would get 7.141 meters. As far as sig figs, again, the 1 is exact. This has 1, 2, 3, 4 sig figs. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our rules for multiplication division tell us that our answer will have the same number of sig figs as the number with the fewest. So we would have 4 here. All right, let's look at another conversion problem, dimension analysis problem. Here you're asked to convert 0.0340 kilometers into miles. You're also given the relationship that 1 kilometer equals 0.62137 miles. So pause the video, take a few minutes, and see if you can solve this problem. Okay, So we would want to start by taking our given quantity, our 0.0340 kilometers, and we need to multiply it times our conversion factor. So we write our relationship as a fraction. We want to convert from kilometers and into miles so that my units of kilometers cancel and I end up with miles. So I would multiply 0.0340 times 0.62137. I would get 0.0211 and units would be miles. Now again, remember your sig figs. This number has 3 sig figs. Remember your rules. And this number has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my answer would have 3. Also, always be sure to put your units. So anytime you perform a mathematical operation using measured values, be sure that you write your answer in the correct sig figs and you write the units. Don't ever forget to do that. And let's try one last problem. Here you're asked to convert 0.00115 miles into yards. Now this is a two-step problem, or well, I shouldn't say that. It's a multiple-step problem. You're given two relationships. 1 meter equals 1.0936 yards, and 1 kilometer equals 0.62137 miles. So pause the video and see if you can solve this problem. Okay, so first thing I would do is develop a strategy for solving this before I just got right into it. I'm given miles, so that's where I want to start. I know that I can use this relationship to convert miles into kilometers. Now I know a relationship between kilometers and meters. My SI unit prefixes allow me to convert from kilometers into meters, and then once I get into meters, I can use this relationship to go from meters into yards. So I would say this would be a three-step problem. And here's how I set it up. I started with my miles, and my first relationship I wrote as a conversion factor with miles on the bottom, kilometers on the top. Okay, so my units of miles would cancel here, and that would get me into kilometers. Now I know, and we just have to know our SI unit prefixes, that 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. So that gets my units of kilometers to cancel, and I get into units of meters. Now I have a relationship here, which I can write as a conversion factor. 1 meter equals 1.0936 yards. So my meters I want to put on the bottom because that's what I'm trying to get rid of, and I want to end up in yards because that's what the question asks. So I would set it up like this. I would multiply everything that's on top and then divide by the product of everything that's on the bottom. My sig figs, again, are ones. These are all exact. And this conversion factor here, this is a defined value, so we know that this is exact. So this has, my given value has 3 sig figs. This has 5, and this one has 5, so my answer must have 3 sig figs. So I would round my answer to 2.02, and I would add units of yards. Again, remember your sig figs and units. So practice some more of these from your textbook. Be sure you're very comfortable using conversion factors and be able to set it up in this dimensional analysis format. It would be very useful if you get comfortable doing this, be very useful throughout your course.